All right. One more bit of information. Apparently, our CCC guest Wi-Fi is down, which is why some of you might not have been able to get on. So if you will either turn off your internet on your phone or go to CCC Starlink, you can scan in that way. Again, I don't have the QR code up here, but if you go to menti.com, menti.com, it's going to prompt you to put in a code, and the code you want to put in is 13 13 51 92. Again, that code is 13 13 51 92. Somebody can write that down at your table. You'll be able to stay in tune. Doesn't matter if you jump on now or later. Code is the same. You'll get to the same prompts that we're all on together as we get into that space. I'm going to go over your answers in just a minute. We got great responses already. I think our online group has joined us. Same rules apply for those of you who are joining us online. Welcome to you all. We are right in the middle of a chili cook-off here, so everybody is getting stuffed to the brim, and we're planning to get them out of this room before that chili kicks in. But you at home can participate with us. Again, go to menti.com, menti.com, and then the code you want to put in is 1313 5192. 1313 5192. You'll be able to jump in with us. Now, before we get into the real business, let's do the important business for the day. The chili cook-off winners. We are super excited about all the chilies that are over there, and I first want to recognize and see if I can get my judges up here to join me, if you would. We had 3 judges and then a couple of tie-breaking judges. I think one of our judges had to leave, but we have Dottie Gibbs. Miss Dottie, give it up for Dottie. Right here, Dottie. Thank you very much. We had Jackson Ray to my left. Jackson's coming up, and I think Paul, did Paul have to leave? He did have to leave. Paul also helped as alternates and tie-breaking judges. And Miss Dana Satterfield right over here to my left. Dana, you just hanging there? Is that what you're... If you had a tie-breaking decision, absolutely. Julian, you are not out of this. Julian is our other tie-breaking judge. We'll get her to come on up here as well. We're going to get pictures, which is why we wanted all of you up here. So I just hope you're prepared for all of that madness. Get the chili out of your teeth. Do whatever you have to do. And then let's do this. So the moment has come. We'll start with the chili, and then we'll end with the desserts, as I hope most of you had done. We had 3 categories that we were judging this year: spiciest chili, most unique chili, and then the best overall chili. Starting with the spiciest chili award, it is fittingly going to a very spicy personality, Miss D. Trollian. Come on down. Tracy, if you guys will surround D right here, I'll step out of the way, and Tracy will get your picture real quick. That is number 7, yes. If you'd like to try the spiciest, number 7. I'm going to step right over here. Those of you who are at home, this is what you're missing out on, all the magic of the spicy moment, right down front. D's taste good now, but it will hurt later. Thank you, D. All right, next up is our most unique chili of the day, the most unique chili that is out there. I don't even know what it is, but it is number 12, and that one goes to Miss Jan Sparks. Where's Jan at? Give it up for Jan, the most unique chili of the day. What is your chili? No one gave me that info. A veggie chili. Nice. Number 12. Number 12, if anybody wants to go back up. Oh, don't you skip out. Saw what you were doing there. All right. And finally, the best overall chili coming in at number 5, Miss Sherry Gore. Sherry, don't you just stay there. Don't you just stay there. Come on down, Sherry. What made yours so special, Sherry, in this moment? What was it? Bacon. Bacon is the secret to absolutely everything. There's no doubt about it. If you want to try a little bit of that, if there's any left, you'll go to number 5. That's where you'll go. All right. And then finally, I have no name for this, but I do have a dessert. So someone came in incognito with the dessert today. But the winner is the Derby pie. Who made that Derby pie? All right. Come on down, Miss Dawn. It's a beautiful, beautiful dessert. It's okay. You were trying to lay low. It didn't work. Oh, did you get it last year too? You should have. That's true. All right. Give it up for all of our winners. You guys did a fantastic, fantastic job. All right. Well, today we are going to be jumping in kind of head first into our strategy update for 2025. As Aaron said, things have been moving so significantly fast, so many things changing on the backside of Hurricane Helene, and so many question marks that are still out there. We will be coming back together in a few months. So just be aware of that. We're going to kind of give an outline of what we perceive God doing in our midst and how God is working in our midst in this moment. But what I've come to understand about the life of faith is that sometimes you take steps into the great unknown with God, and our greatest decision as disciples of Jesus Christ is to take that step with Him. We don't always know. And so it feels a little odd, and in fact I told Aaron earlier, I said, we come together and we usually like to have a very clear kind of outlined strategy, and that works in a corporate world, but sometimes we as people of faith need a bit of inspiration to keep moving, to keep going, and to keep seeing how God is going to shape the world in front of us, which is why this question is really important. The question that we put on the screen today is a question that we also see in the prophet Isaiah, and it's one that I want us to get into in just a few minutes. But for you all, we ask this question: what do you perceive God's been doing in our community since Hurricane Helene? And I'll read some of these. I won't get through all of them, but you'll be able to see them on your phones as well. We see God bringing people together. We see that God was silent, and when He is like that, it's because He's working. This is very powerful. Bringing neighbors together, disorienting us to reorient us, healing our hearts, seeing kindness being shared, bringing the church community together in service to the larger community, bringing people together to help each other. God's brought people together through the church response, bringing people, community together with care and empathy, allowing us to be the church for the community, bringing us together with volunteers to provide for folks in need after Helene, reigniting a commitment to community around us, people getting to know their neighbors better, healing some of our divisions, bringing the church together to serve our neighbors, showing His enormous love through people, healing and building community, leading people to serve, serving those in need and helping everyone to experience joy without guilt, unified focus to reach the community, helping people help take care of each other and be more aware of each other's needs, bringing neighbors together in His name, bringing the unchurched into the lives of people who can introduce Him to them, working through all of us to help and love on those in need. It's expanded what we perceive as our community. It's bringing people together, healing hearts, allowing us to be the hands and feet of Christ, taking us out of our comfort zones. And then one more final time, it's bringing people together. I don't know if you saw themes of this bringing people together over and over again. But I think when we do things like this, we start to hear the way that God has been whispering to us all, and we start to perceive what truly is going on. And it's important that we be perceptive in times like this, because it is in times that are often the darkest and the hardest that we pause enough of our life to see the magnificent and mysterious work that God is doing all around us. Now, let me be clear. God is always doing work. God is always at work. God is always moving, and God is always inviting God's people to be involved in that movement. But what we have discerned throughout history is that there are these times when everything underneath us shakes, when the ground around us moves, and we are able to lean more intensely and intentionally on God. What we see in the prophet Isaiah is one of those moments. In Isaiah chapter 43, the people of God have gone through one of the most horrific moments of their lives where everything around them was shaken. The world that they knew was turned upside down. And it's in this space that God begins to speak. He says in verse 18 of chapter 43, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past." Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing now a new thing. Now it's springing up in your midst. And here's the question. Do you not perceive it? Do you not perceive it already? Do you not see it? All of us, do we not see that God is doing something in this space? I am making a way, a highway, a pathway in the middle of the wilderness, and I am bringing streams in the middle of a deserted wasteland, is what he says. The message that God gave to the people of Israel so long ago is, I think, a very relevant message to us even this day, that God is doing something new, and it's in these seasons, what I call a liminal season, which a liminal, that word liminal just kind of means a doorway, right? You're in between two realities. And what we're in right now is a liminal season where we are passing from one space into another space, and on that precipice, on that gap, in that liminal space, we don't have a ton of clarity on what's on the other side, but we know that what's on the other side is that new. And we're starting to get glimpses of it, and we're starting to piece it together. And what I hope that we can do today is piece together many of the things that we are thinking about here, that we're seeing right here in this space, and we can start to have a little bit more confidence and assurance on the path that God wants to take us as we go forward. And some of the things that I think we have seen already, and that today you're going to hear voices from our leadership here at the church that will kind of reiterate this. There are three things that I think we need to lean into this year. Don't know exactly how. Each day I'm learning more, we're learning more, we're discovering more together. But there are three things that I've seen over and over again that I think we need to be attentive to. Let me bring up the next. I got carried away and didn't give you your slide. Three things that I think we need to be attentive to as we go into this, and then we're going to listen to a short message from both Max Sally, our council chair, and James Snook, our outgoing lay leader. As we perceive what God is doing, I perceive there is a need for us to lean more heavily and confidently into a deeper discipleship, a call that God is placing before us to go deeper in our spirituality and in our walk with Him, and to expand what that means. How we see that our faith is something that it forms every single day of our life and every action that we perform. And we will be a church in this year and in this season that is willing to explore what that deeper discipleship means. The second thing that I think you're going to hear from different members of our council is that we are also a church that is grounded, and our discipleship is grounded in shared ownership. And there will be an invitation to be shared owners of this reality, of how each of us have gifts that we bring to the table, and each of us can use those gifts to the glory of God and to the great building of His kingdom in the world. And the final thing that I see that we have lived into and are living into more and more each day is a renewed passion for missional innovation. The way in which we see what it means to be on mission in the world, and the way that we are courageously willing to step into that space, whatever it looks like. And that's what we've already started, and I think that's where God is taking us as we go forward. Now, here's how we're going to explore these three things. We're going to listen to each other. We've got a series of videos from each of our leaders in the church, our council chairs, our committee chairs, different ones who are at the head of projects, so that we can model that shared ownership. We're going to listen to each other. As we are listening, what I would encourage you to do is offer questions. You're going to see on your phones now that you can offer questions that are coming up related to the council and the lay leadership reports that are given. And as they give these reports, if there's something that pops up, I want you to put that down. Now, we may come back to that question in just a little while. We may be able to respond to that question immediately. If you're really struggling and you've got a burning question, I think Josh has got a microphone. He'd be willing to walk around to you. So if you're not able to get it in your phone, you do want your question to be heard, I encourage you to raise your hand. But at any point in time, you can drop those questions in, and we will look at them together and kind of look at our next steps together as well. So, without further ado, let's turn our attention to Mac and to James and hear what they have to say to us.
Hello, Covenant family. I'm Max Alley, your Administrative Council Chair, and it's my privilege to share with you as we reflect on the past year and look forward to what's ahead. First, I want to express how proud I am of our church. Since Hurricane Helene, Covenant has stepped up with just incredible ways. We've not only provided immediate relief, but also laid the foundation for something lasting, a home for those who found themselves without one. Your generosity, compassion, and dedication have been a true testament to Christ's love in action. Truly, the church being the church. As we look to next year, I'm excited and filled with hope. A hope we will continue to reach out to our neighbors with the same spirit of service and care that has defined us this past year. Let's be known as a church that loves deeply and serves boldly. I also hope to see Covenant grow, not just in membership, but in spiritual depth. As we welcome new faces, may we deepen our faith and commitment to following Christ. However, I do want to acknowledge the hard work of our staff and volunteers. My prayer is that we all find ways to pace ourselves and prioritize self-care so we can serve from a place of health and joy. And finally, I hope that we'll reclaim a strong focus on discipleship. One way we might step into this is by offering an adult discipleship class that gathers on Sunday mornings before worship, a space where our laity can be empowered and equipped to take ownership of the ministry of our church. Together, we can build a community that grows in faith and action. Thank you for all you do to make Covenant a place where God's love shines brightly. I'm excited to see where God will lead us in the coming year. Blessings to all.
Good morning, Covenant family. I'm James Snook, your outgoing lay leader, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of this amazing congregation, our family. Over the past year, I've been so touched by the way our church teamed up with our neighbors to help those in need after Hurricane Helene. From relief efforts to ongoing support, it's been a beautiful demonstration of Christ's love in action. I'm particularly excited about the connections we're building with our Spanish-speaking community. Watching that relationship develop has been such a blessing, and I look forward to seeing how it will continue to grow. I'm also thrilled about the opportunities ahead, from the village to warmer weather, bringing back block parties, family game nights, and new missional opportunities. As we move forward, I'm hoping that every voice in our congregation will be heard, considered, and valued. I'm eager to see new faces, familiar faces, and all the faces that make up our Covenant family, experiencing the transformative power of Christ. I'm also super stoked about our partnership with Deep Time Coffee and the ministry's opportunities it brings to walk alongside those who have been impacted by incarceration. One of my hopes for the future is to see students of all ages participating in every aspect of the church, reflecting their presence in all we do. I want them to feel excited about gathering, participating, and knowing they are accepted, welcomed, loved, and highly valued. Additionally, I'm hopeful for the new lay leadership to step into all areas of ministry. The more we dig deeper in our spiritual walks, by practicing spiritual disciplines, growing in our discipleship, and experiencing things like the walk to Emmaus, the stronger our community will grow. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your lay leader. It's been a true joy, and I'm excited to see what God has in store for Covenant in the year ahead.
As you heard, even in James' report at the end, that he is our outgoing lay leader, and we are so incredibly grateful for the season that James has walked with us through in this way. He has been, of all the lay leaders I've ever served with in any context, one of the strongest advocates for the ministry of the laity and making sure that all are involved, that all voices are brought to the table, and he models that deep desire to make sure that everyone feels included. And so I'm so grateful that he has done that. And I'm also very, very grateful that he is not leaving leadership but transitioning over to our missions team, where he will continue to advocate for that part of our vision and the heart of our church. So can we once again give it up for James and all that he's done as we transition out. As he transitions out, Dana Satterfield is transitioning into his position and will be advocating in the same way. I'll tell you a very quick story. I didn't know this when you came to our first council meeting, but she said one of the most powerful things for her in being a part of the covenant community was that when she came, it was the last Sunday of one of our pastors by the name of Claude Kaler. And then for those of you who were here during that period of time, you know it was more than a year before we actually had another full-time pastor. And what happened during that time is a testament to God of the power of the laity stepping up and being the church. And this is what spoke to Dana and her husband Clay and their whole family, and it's one of the reasons they stuck here. And so when she was like telling that story to us, I was like, you are exactly who we need to take the steps to step into the space where James was with such a hard passion for the work of the laity. And we'll get into that more in just a few minutes as we listen to more of our laity, and we'll talk a little bit more about what shared ownership means here at Covenant. But I want to highlight just a couple things. Let me respond to this right now. So, have we experienced numerical growth? I think this is the only question that's up here. Let me make sure. We have remained stable through 2024. We haven't experienced massive numerical growth in our church, but we have remained stable, maybe up just a few. Tracy would have the exact numbers for the past year. But one of the things we were most concerned with is how our numbers would change on the backside of the storm. There's a couple things from our leadership perspective that's very clear. Anytime you offer multiple worship services, you have a chance to have higher attendance. And so when we had to move to one worship service after the storm, we were automatically concerned, okay, that means that people are going to drop down and leave and all this kind of stuff. And we have not seen that, which is great. We are actively looking at what it would mean to expand our services in the future. And the reason that it's always important to think in those terms is because more time offerings means more opportunities for people who can't be here at 10:30. The church is the only institution right now in our modern world that still has this: if you do not meet us at this particular time on this particular day, you cannot participate, right? Everything else, you can sit at your home and you can DoorDash your food. You can request Netflix to give you the movie when you want it at the time you want it. And the church has not done any of that to kind of take the message of the gospel and discipleship forward. So it's something we'll continue to be looking at. But at least right now, on the backside of the storm, our stability is important to recognize and honor, but it's also something that we should step back and say, okay, so what will it mean for us to actually grow as we go into the future? And I think Mac was on to something when he addressed the fact that we need to grow numerically, but numerical growth is always held in tandem with spiritual growth. That's how this happens. So the more that we lean into our discipleship journey, we dig deeper in those opportunities for spiritual growth, we can see the numerical growth happening. One, because we become better at offering the power of the gospel to other people, right? Our greatest form of evangelism is not what Aaron or I or any pastor does from this platform, but rather it's what we do collectively to share the good news with those who are around us and in our community. And the more we grow confident in our own spiritual journey, the more we will share that good news, be inviters and bringers to what's happening in this space and in this community, more importantly. So spiritual growth in that way. I think it's really valuable to think through this. So I'm going to invite you to do this. This will be really helpful for us. Mac mentioned a Sunday morning study group that we can have, and we hope to start it soon. So you're going to see on your screens just kind of an option to respond to this. The 4 options that are in front of you: yes, please, I'd sign up for it immediately. Yes, please, keep me in the loop. I'm reluctant, so not yet. Maybe that'll change, but you're not there yet. And then finally, I don't think this is needed. So if you can take a moment to fill that out, we'll be able to keep this with us kind of consistently. But I do think this is one of those options where we continue to say, when people come to this environment, can we offer them an educational environment that kind of locks into that spiritual discipline? And should we do it on the day that they're already here, rather than having another night? Some of us really prefer going into homes, but others of us really prefer having all of our kind of Christian discipleship journey in one space. So it's important for us to kind of think through that. The other opportunity that I want to offer up is things, and many of you are already participants in this way, but things like the Walk to Emmaus. These are weekend opportunities for you to grow significantly in your spiritual journey. And if you've not ever participated in one of these, I would encourage you to jump in. Over to my right is David Michelle and James and oh my gosh, Amanda, sorry, James and Amanda, and they have all been in the leadership and are currently in the leadership of the Blue Ridge Emmaus. If you want to be a part of the Walks to Emmaus, I would definitely talk to them. Even if you've been on one but you've not participated in a weekend in a while, talk to them. We've got a weekend coming up in February for the women. We have another one coming up that Dave is leading in May for men. And these are both incredible opportunities for your spiritual growth and development. A few days away, dedicated specifically to that will transform your life. And so I would encourage you to be a part of that and to dig into that. That weekend is completely free. You'll be sponsored to go on that weekend, so it's no cost to you. It's just a space where people love on you. And I know many of you in this room have already participated in that, so I would encourage you to do that as well. Awesome. We are getting some great responses here. So we're at like 70%. Yes, please keep me in the loop. And then we got a little tie here between the I'm reluctant and yes, please sign me up immediately. So, all right. So we are doing well there. One of the things that I want to continue to kind of lean into as we, let me go back one. As we think about what discipleship looks like. Acts chapter 2 spells out for us very clearly how the early disciples started to experience life together. And there's a list of things that come at the end of Acts chapter 2. They would gather together daily in the temple to study, to read, to pray. These are things that they would do. They would gather together and would serve the community around them. And there's one thing that we don't like to often think about, but it says that they would hold all things in common. Now, this is an important one. Sometimes we get a little skittish around this one because it's like, oh, you want me to give all of my money into this common bank of the church? I don't think it's just about their money. I think it's about resources in general. Now, many of them did sell property and bring it into the church. They did that. We see stories about that. But they did consistently hold all of who they were in common and offered it back to the church. This is shared ownership. Shared ownership of the ministry, shared ownership of what God has called us to do. It's a way that we commit every gift and ability that we have inside ourselves to the greater good of the community, and don't think that it's just one or two people who are in our community who are set to lead us, but we understand that we are all owners in what God is doing and that God has empowered us and called all of us to do it. And it's something that we've done in incredible ways here in the history of our church. In fact, as Aaron and I first came here a few years ago and we started asking individuals, what has kept you here? What do you love or what do you miss? We started hearing stories of ownership, of ways that people could own the ministry, invest in the ministry, and constantly be involved with all of who they were. It's what made Covenant, the way that you would come along and be a part of that. And over the next few minutes, I want us to listen to three of you who model for all of us shared ownership. You do that as you lead our team in finance. You do that as you lead our trustees who are responsible for property, physical property and assets. And you do this in the SPRC, which is our Human Relations Committee. So again, you can ask more questions. They'll continue to populate here, but as more questions come up from these three, I invite you to put those in, and then we'll come back together in just a minute and talk a little bit more about shared ownership.
Good morning, Covenant family. I'm Carrie LaPierre, your outgoing finance chair, and it has been a privilege and an honor to serve you over these past 3 years. Reflecting on my time with this incredible team, I'm proud of the dramatic financial shifts we've made together. The church is in good hands with the finance team currently in place, a group that works well together and is highly reliable. As I prepare to hand the reins over to Danny Muse, I'm hopeful that more members of our congregation will consider stepping up to help us think strategically about the future of our finances. With the camping village now operational and new streams of income opening up, we have an opportunity to ensure our financial arrangements align with God's vision for our ministry. Looking back on this past year, we saw a dip in contributions to the general fund, and we did not meet our budget based purely on those contributions. This may have been due in part to many members redirecting their giving toward disaster relief and the camping village funds. However, I'm here to testify that our God of abundance provided beyond what we could have imagined. While the general fund was low, we received over $630,000 in the last quarter alone for the village and the hurricane relief efforts, leaving us in a strong cash position as we head into 2025. As we look to the future, we must focus on addressing capital expenses and planning for future building needs. For example, we still need significant HVAC upgrades and should consider how to financially invest in our physical property to support the ministry God has in store for us. If you'd like more information about church finances or would like to receive quarterly reports, send us an email. Thank you for allowing me to serve in this role and for your faithful support of Covenant. I am excited to see where God will lead us in the coming year.
Hello, Covenant Community family. My name is Dave Phillips, and this past year, our trustees team, led by Paula Hendrickson, has been hard at work ensuring that our church property remains a place where ministry can flourish and our mission can thrive. It's inspiring to see how God has guided our efforts and how the work of many hands has come together for His glory. One of our major accomplishments was upgrading the church's security system through Southern Alarms, enhancing safety for everyone who enters our doors. We also conducted a thorough HVAC assessment, taking critical steps towards addressing our heating and cooling needs, a vital part of maintaining our space for worship, ministry, and community use. Our April workday was a shining example of our congregation coming together in service. Volunteers landscaped, painted, pressure washed, repaired, and cleaned in almost every corner of our property. From staining benches to replacing ceiling tiles, every task reflected care and commitment to God's house. We also installed beautiful new signage to welcome visitors, partnered with Duke Energy for an energy audit to explore future savings, and even reviewed proposals for solar power as we look toward sustainability. Additionally, we supported the launch of Covenant Community Village by preparing and maintaining the campers, ensuring they're ready to house families in need. As we look to 2025, we're excited to continue this momentum. A key focus will be finalizing plans to repair or replace our HVAC system. We'll also explore a vision for maximizing our property's potential, not just for our church family, but also for those living in the village as they begin their recovery journey. Projects like a bathroom renovation and other improvements will be steps towards creating a space that meets the growing needs of our community. God has richly blessed our church with resources and people who care deeply about stewarding them well. We're excited to welcome new trustees into this important work and to dream together about what's next. Thank you for your prayers, your service, and your partnership in making Covenant a place where God's love is visible to all who enter.
Hey, Covenant family. My name is Vanessa Crouch, and I serve as the chairperson of the Staff Parish Relations Committee. It's my joy to reflect on the incredible work of our church staff in 2024 and to share our hopes for the year ahead. This past year has reminded us how blessed we are by our staff that is not only dedicated, but also resilient. Time and again, they've demonstrated their ability to pivot and face new and unexpected challenges, stepping into the gaps and ensuring that ministry continues, even when the path has been uncertain. Their commitment to God's work and their deep care for this congregation have been nothing short of remarkable. We are so grateful for their steadfastness and steadiness. We are also deeply thankful for the volunteers who stepped in to assist our staff throughout the year. whether it was helping with events, supporting ministry initiatives, or simply offering encouragement. These volunteers were an invaluable part of our team. Their willingness to serve amplified the work of our staff and showed the beauty of the body of Christ working together. Looking ahead to 2025, our greatest hope is to be fully staffed, a team that is not only complete but also equipped to build meaningful relationships with our members and community partners. We believe that the challenges of 2024 have given us a clearer vision for what lies ahead. As we prepare for the big tasks God has placed before us, we are committed to planning strategically and intentionally, ensuring that we have the right team in place to carry this congregation forward into a season of growth, service, and impact. Your prayers and encouragement and support mean so much to our staff and to those of us serving on SPRC. Together, we look forward to the year ahead with anticipation and trust in God's guidance. Thank you.
I hope what you see as we heard both from Vanessa and Dave, as Paula was busy enjoying Hawaii at the time, and from Carrie, is a commitment among the laity to take the lead in so many significant areas of our church. What you may or may not know as a United Methodist congregation is each of those three committees are required in our discipline. We have to make sure that there is a group of people who are committed to looking at the financial structure of the church, a group of people committed to the building, the physical properties of our church, and a group of people committed to supporting and upholding the vision by aligning the vision with staff or human relations. And each of you and more, these individuals don't represent the whole of the committees that they are a part of, but each of you and others have committed to upholding the church in that way and to carrying that vision forward. And what you probably heard throughout their reports is this common theme of, and more is great. We would love for more trustees to come on board and walk this journey with us. We would love for more of you who are gifted financially to become a part of what's going on. We would love for more of you who maybe have got some experience with HR and human relations to jump into that committee. There is always room for more, to use your gifts and your abilities in this way. And even, I don't see the questions up here, but I do see them now. Some of you have had questions come up. We also need our children to take ownership of the church, and we need children's ministry. What does the church plan to do to improve children's ministry and to make it a priority? And that is part of what it means to be fully staffed, for sure. We've already got a job search opened, and we are actively engaging with new potential family ministry pastors. We're going to have someone come in who will oversee both ministry to children and to our students, and we are looking for that person now. I say that, and then I back up and say, but we all are involved in that work. And that's something that you'll hear us say over and over again, to say it is helpful to have a compensated leader sitting in this position, but it is also not an excuse for the laity to kind of lean in. And if we are committed to the work of ministering to our children and raising up our children and our youth in this way, then we have to step in collectively and do this work together in whatever way we can, in whatever fashion we can, so that we can see the ministry of the church going on and going forward. And so in most immediate sense, that's what fully staffed looks like, is making sure that that person is back in position to oversee that within the church. The parts that are yet unclear and that we will be getting into is based on the expansion of our mission in the community, the dramatic shift we saw in our finances this year from the general fund to missional funds, where the missional fund outweighed the general fund. We're going to have to think about what staffing in that area looks like going forward too. And we've not yet fully defined that because we've not fully defined the parameters of the need. We are extremely grateful that Keith West, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes, was assigned to us from the conference to be a project manager for the project of the village, and the conference has committed to helping him financially to do that work. So we're grateful for that, but we have to think about what our commitment will be going forward. Yes?
Thank you. Um, I know that there's a possibility of looking at a ministry in this church with working with people who have dementia. I was also wondering if that could be expanded to people with limited who have come into limited abilities like vision, lower vision, who have lost their eyesight in one eye or possibly losing their eyesight altogether. Could you speak to that, Sam?
Yeah, I don't know that there's any active plans around that, but I think that's the type of, as you're perceiving needs or as any needs are perceived in the congregation, it would be the type of thing, let's chat, let's get that in front of the church leadership, the council, the staff, to see how we can participate in that way to make ministry possible. I think for me, when I hear us talk about that in particular, it's another way that we open the door to invite all people into a growing relationship with Jesus, right? There are barriers that are standing in the way. One of the barriers that we recognized it last year, we recognize it now, we're continuing to do work on it, is language barriers. So there's a barrier between us and our Latino neighbors and just that linguistic barrier. So how do we remove that?
To give an example, I was a greeter this morning, and I was out in the front during the service, and a gentleman he said he was 26, and he was talking to me, and it was clear to me that he was a special needs person. And he was communicating with me, and I was, because I was special ed teacher in my background, I was able to have very good communication skills with him. But he came out of the service, and I was able to provide a space for him to feel welcomed in the church, so he wasn't just wandering around in the back of the church by himself. He was waiting for his family to pick him up. His family does not come to church here, but he wants to come to church here. But again, special needs is another part of welcoming people with special needs.
Yes, absolutely. And let me say thank you for doing that. That is part of owning ministry, right? It's an important part where we see and perceive as the body of Christ the needs that are here and step into it. And I would love to talk more. If you'll send me an email or let's talk, we can continue that conversation as we go forward. So that is a perfect example, and in fact, just yesterday I had another conversation very similar to that one with a grandmother in our church who has a child with special needs and is concerned about the way that when we bring a family ministry pastor in, they will be trained to attend to those who have special needs in our community. And we know that that is something that God would maybe be whispering to us. Why? Because we see the concern and we're perceiving it in our body already, right? Our body is perceiving this need. And so we need to be attentive to those things going forward without great clarity at this point as to what that might look like, but being open to what God might be calling us to in this space. All right. I think I got most of the questions. If you'll notice, the questions aren't coming up here, but I am able to see them on my screen now, so let me see if there's any other ones. Just as a further, here's one. If we have ideas about ways to further the discipleship efforts, who should we talk to? You should definitely send an email to info@cccasheville.org, and that'll get to one of us on staff info@cccasheville.org. And I'll also say, Carrie had mentioned if you want reports, financial reports quarterly, if you'll send an email requesting those reports financially to info@cccasheville.org, you can get that as well. So make sure to do that. All right, we're going to shift now to the very final leg of this, which is a look at our missional partnerships and to the missional innovation that lies in front of us. It's the thing that we have probably been upfront about the most in the last quarter, because that is what God has called us to the most in the last quarter. And it's also the thing that we perceive as probably one of the biggest shifts in 2025 as we go throughout the year. So as we end this kind of section of listening to the videos, we're going to hear from 4 people. We're going to hear from Ann DeCarufel. I don't know, it's DeCarufel. Ann is coming on as our new chair in the missions committee, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then afterwards, you're going to hear from Ron Johnson, who is the leader of our Fresh Expression Worship in the Wild. You'll hear from George McGee, who is the leader of the Crystal Meth Anonymous group that meets here, which is the largest Crystal Meth Anonymous group in the world. Meets here twice a week. In this space. You'll hear from him and the missional partnership we have there. And then you'll finally hear from Keith West as he gives us an update on the village. So let's turn our attention to the screen. Again, if you have any questions during this time, submit them, and we'll try to get back to them. I'll keep looking at the feed here to make sure I've got them all.
Good morning, Covenant family. I'm Ann DeCarufel, and I'm honored to serve as the new chairperson for the mission team. As I step into this role, I'm excited to build on the incredible mission work that happened throughout 2024. Let's take a moment to reflect on some of the highlights. One of the most memorable moments was our Worship in the Wild gatherings. As you will hear in Ron's report, we grew in numbers and relationships. But we took a great step forward as members of that group began partnering with our larger community to serve and aid in recovery after Hurricane Helene. It was a powerful reminder of how worship leads to action, no matter where we choose to worship. In May and August, we hosted car care ministries for the single mothers and widows in our community. Beyond the practical help, we saw new relationships form. We had breakfast on those Saturday mornings, a beautiful example of fellowship in action. Fiesta Days were another highlight, made possible by a $15,000 grant from the Reynolds Foundation. This funding allowed us to expand our connection with our immediate neighbors through block parties. When the storm hit, our Latino neighbors were among the first to step up and assist recovery efforts, demonstrating the strength of those relationships. While Faith in Action Day was originally planned for the last Sunday in September, it was quickly canceled due to the hurricane. Instead of one day of action, we became the church in action every day in the weeks and months that followed. This church became a hub of service, support, and hope for those in need. And now we're moving into a new chapter with the development of Emergency Housing Village designed to assist those displaced by the storm. You'll hear more about this incredible project from our project manager, Keith West, but I'm thrilled to see how it's already making a difference. Thank you for being a church that lives out its mission. I'm excited to see how God will continue to use us and make an impact in 2025.
Hello, Covenant family. My name is Ron Johnson, and my wife Holly and I lead Worship in the Wild. It is a joy to share updates on this unique and growing fresh expression anchored out of our church. Worship in the Wild began just over a year ago, and it's been absolutely incredible to see how God has moved through our group. We currently have around 300 members in our meetup group, and we average around 10 attendees per hike over the course of the last year. These hikes draw a really diverse range of participants, culturally, spiritually, and geographically, creating a vibrant space for meaningful conversation and deep connections. In 2024, we explored the fruit of the Spirit together with tackling big questions like how do we love each other beyond political divides. These discussions have been rich and transformative, especially for those who might not otherwise engage with a traditional church setting. We also expanded beyond hiking, starting our ladies' nights and coffee with the guys, which has helped foster deeper relationships within our group. Helene, of course, brought challenges with trail closures and disruptions, but even in adversity, we've seen our community's resilience growth. A highlight was our December holiday party, where we had 19 attendees, showing the strength of our core group. As we step into the new year, I'm excited about our plans to dive into faith stories, dedicating hikes to personal faith journeys, along with our usual reflective discussions. We'll continue ladies' nights, gathering for the guys, and other events to deepen community. January has already shown the beauty of this group's evolving focus. When we canceled a hike a couple of weeks ago due to weather, 14 people still showed up for breakfast, which is really showing how much this group means to them. And it's really becoming more clear that Worship in the Wild has become more than a hiking group. It's really a spiritual community. From all of us involved, thank you for your support and prayers. Worship in the Wild continues to be a space where we listen, love, and build community. For those who'd like more details about our year, written copies of my full report are available. Here's to another year of walking with God and each other, both on the trails and in our lives.
Hello, my name is George, and I participate in meetings of Crystal Meth Anonymous, which is a 12-step fellowship which meets here at Covenant Church on Tuesday and Friday evenings. I'm honored to share with you an update about the incredible work happening in our CMA community. CMA is a fellowship that welcomes anyone struggling with addiction to mind-altering substances, whether that's alcohol, hard drugs, or anything in between. We're proud to be the largest CMA group in the world, with an average of over 100 people gathering each week, twice a week, plus additional people from all over the world who are joining us online. We're also one of the most diverse CMA groups in the world, reflecting a wide range of experiences, backgrounds, and stories of recovery. Our gatherings are built around a variety of formats. We have step meetings, topic discussions, and speaker-led sessions. One unique aspect of our meetings is that everyone is given an opportunity to say their name to the group, no matter how large the crowd, because we believe that everyone needs to feel heard and seen. We've recently celebrated some of our highest numbers in our CHIP ceremony, which marks significant milestones in sobriety. Additionally, we're exploring the possibility of women's-only meetings to further support recovery in ways that are meaningful and accessible to all. Beyond our local gatherings, we're actively involved in national and international CMA leadership efforts, including working as liaisons with local jails and treatment centers. We're also making plans to host a regional conference right here in this area, a big step for our community. We want to take a moment to express our gratitude to Covenant Community Church. You have created a space where we feel at home, welcomed, and encouraged. For many of us, this is especially profound because some of our members carry deep wounds from past church experiences. Your hospitality and care are helping to heal those hurts and remind us of God's grace. Thank you for standing with us as we continue this vital work. Together, we are making a difference in the lives of those seeking hope and freedom.
Hello, Covenant family. My name is Keith West, and I have the privilege of leading the project management team for the Covenant Community Village. As we reflect on the journey so far, it's important to remember that we have moved beyond distributing relief supplies. While that phase was crucial, we are now firmly on the path of recovery. The disaster recovery timeline is extensive, 3 years give or take, and we are committed to this for the long haul. The Covenant Community Village plays a vital role in this recovery process. It's more than just a place for housing. Yes, it's a first step on the recovery journey, providing a safe and temporary environment where families can begin to rebuild their lives. But it's also so much more. The village is a place for emotional and spiritual healing, where families receive the encouragement and the resources they need to achieve full recovery and transition to permanent housing. One thing we've learned is that partnerships are key to making the village a reality. Through collaboration with local organizations, churches, and volunteers, we've been able to create a sustainable operation that will serve those in need. As we move forward into 2025, I want to leave you with a challenge. The recovery journey requires all of us. I invite you to ask yourself, what can I do? Whether it's volunteering your time, offering your skills, or supporting the mission financially, every contribution matters. Together, we can make Covenant Community Village not just a beacon of hope, but a transformative space where lives are changed and God's love is made tangible. Thank you for being part of this incredible mission.
What can I do to help? That's the question that's in front of us today. And I want to kind of close with just a few stories of the way that folks have answered that call, and I've seen transformation already. Just this past week, Tracy met up with an individual who's a part of the group that George mentioned, the CMA group. And because a few months ago, there was an individual, in fact, a friend of our congregation, who said, "What can I do to help?" Well, I have a car. I can give that. It met this individual right where they were and provided transportation for him that changed his life. And as we stood in the parking lot, he said, "I tried to hold back my tears for as long as I could, and I just couldn't hold it any longer." And he kind of broke down weeping. And he said, "You have no idea what your generosity has done for those who are in our community." He said, "You literally, because somebody said, yes, I can help by paying the first month's rent on sober living, someone was kept off the streets and kept off a relapse back into a life of doing crack cocaine." Right? Because we've said, I can do this, I can help, lives have been transformed. I've got a text message in my phone from one of those members of the Worship in the Wild community. And because Ron and Holly and others who are sitting in this room have said, "What can I do to help?" this individual, who at first was completely turned off by the church, now sent a message to me and said, "I would love to get reconnected with God and the church. I'd love to grow in that relationship." Earlier, we talked about what numerical growth looks like, and as I listened to these reports and as I've looked around at what God is doing in the world, I recognize that growth is happening, just not where we always think it's happening or should happen. That lives are, in fact, being changed. Like this person who had a deep distrust and even a hatred for the church, but is now not only been an active part of our Worship in the Wild community, but served with us throughout the hurricane relief effort, and even, God forbid, came to one of the worship services here on a Sunday morning. Lives are being changed and transformed because we said, "What can I do to help?" And then we did it. And this is the beautiful thing that lies in front of us this year. I don't know where all of us will respond to that question or how we will respond to that question, but I do know that if we dig deep into our souls and say, "God, what is it that you've gifted me with, and how can I bring that to bear in your kingdom?" we can see dramatic change happen. We can see our community be transformed as we go into this new year. And I know it's important to consistently think about what the Sunday morning sort of experience of our worship looks like, and we need to continue to focus on that. But one of the big things we will be doing this year is, and I've had many conversations, and this is not the place to have it, but many conversations about this, we need an expanded ecclesiology. We needed an expanded understanding of what the church is and how the church functions in the world. And if we can get that expanded understanding of the church, a church that is on mission, a church that is all about shared ownership, a church that is about going deeper in our relationship with God, then we can start to see some of the transformation that God has in store for us. And that's exactly what I think lies in front of us. It's what I've seen. It's what you've seen. It's the testimonies that surround us. And now we're in a season where we just need to make sense of all the chaotic testimonies that are around us, bring them into some semblance of order, and continue forward to do the work of God in this world, to do the work of God with God in this world. And that's what I long for. You know, I think there are going to be lots of opportunities. I saw a question a minute ago come up. I think this is the only one that I saw come up, but it's a great and valid question. If I even have it anymore. Yeah, can you speak just a bit about the village and the volunteer resources needed to support it on an ongoing basis? Keith is certainly someone to talk to about the ongoing needs. Dave is another one to talk about the ongoing needs. We have an incredible team of operations and maintenance that's coming together to help us with the ongoing needs. So I would talk to both of them, but I will also say we're still figuring all that out. That's something that comes up on a weekly basis. We now have a standing meeting on Thursday to address just these things so that we can massage this out into some semblance of order. And what I would encourage us to do in this time, in this season, is with eyes wide open, be willing to commit your contribution back to the church. This morning was a beautiful example of that, as they're not here right now, but Jake and Carly Hill, they saw the need in children's ministry. They have several kids of their own, and this was their first Sunday in children's church, leading children's church after being here for years and years and years. They saw the need. They said, how can I help? If you're seeing the need in the village or in any ministry that's around, what I would encourage you to do, don't get a call during the middle of a meeting. Sorry, you guys didn't hear that. It was me. And respond to that as you perceive the need that is there. Jump in and be responsive to what the Spirit is calling you to do. As we close out today, I want to close. We're right at the end of the season of Epiphanies. We talked about this a few weeks ago. This is the season where we remember the Magi, and then we remember the God sightings, the ways that God showed up in the world. And there's a practice, it's an ancient prayer practice called chalking the doors. And this is what we're going to do. You shook up the chalk, didn't you? One of y'all shook up the chalk in a minute. I think it's at the back here. Here's how we're going to end today. This ceremony, it began, and what's interesting is we participated in a similar type of scenario when we built this building 30 years ago or 25 years ago or however many years ago we built the building here. On the beams in this church are prayers and scriptures. And you can go and I would not encourage you to dig in and to find these, but you could dig in and you could find the way that we have written these. And this practice actually is an ancient practice that goes back to the wise men, and it's often used with chalk because chalk is an ordinary element that God chooses to use in an extraordinary way, the same way that the wise men brought gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, these ordinary elements that God chooses to use in an extraordinary way. And what people would do with the chalk throughout the centuries is they would go to the door frames, and we have multiple door frames in here that I would invite you to write on in just a few minutes as we close our time together. And they would write on the door frame blessings. Blessings for the ministry, blessings for the space that they were gathered in. And in fact, they would, it's a unique part of the story, but they would often start at the top, and they would write C, M, B. Now, some reports say that there were the three names that would come up, but the other reason that they would do it is the Latin phrase that accompanies that, which translates to, may Christ bless this dwelling. Christus mansionem benedictat. May Christ bless this dwelling. And so what I would invite you to do, you can pick somebody from your table who's tall, to write the CMB on the top. To pick that chalk candle up or chalk marker up in just a minute, and to start every door with C and B. But don't stop there and bring to us in 2025. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What would you bless this space with as we go forth into 2025? We don't have all the answers, and that's okay, but where would we start today? We're going to, if Ken's got some music, we'll play just a little bit of music, and we'll take maybe 4 or 5 minutes to prayerfully go around and do this. And then together we'll close in prayer, kind of circled up, and offer these words of blessing. And choose someone from your table to put that C and B at the top. And then and don't forget what it stands for, because somebody's going to ask you, why is there a C and B on the door? And you could just say, because we want Christ to bless this house. We want Christ to bless the work of our ministry, and we want to be in the stream with Christ and what Christ is doing this year. So as you're ready, go to the back where the black table is, grab a chalk marker, and find your way to offer those words of blessing before we close out.